and welcome to Big Muddy Mayhem. This is the podcast where we talk about true crime and bad behaviors throughout the Midwest.
Each week we'll bring you 2 stories from the heartland that might break your heart, but we hope to entertain you along the way.
I'm Tracey Laricha.
And I'm Janet O'Brien. Hello!
Hello, Janet! Hi!
Hi!
How have you been this last week, this whole year?
I know, it's been like a year already, right?
My word.
My word.
There's a whole lot.
So much to unpack that we're not going to right now.
We are not.
No.
There's been a whole lot of bad behavior throughout all kinds of places.
Exactly.
But we are here to entertain you along the way. And so we are going to try to do that. This week was okay. We did we got to physically get muddy.
Exactly. Exactly. We did the cabin. My parents' cabin ended up flooding. And so on Sunday, Tracy and Jim and Amy, they came out and helped clean up. And it's so much better. So
we were out, like along the upper Merrimack. And so honestly, even though I know it wasn't for good reasons and that like the whole dang world seems to be on fire, it did feel good to be out near the river.
Right.
So
felt good. Just kind of cleaning and,
Yeah.
So.
You know what? Sometimes you just got to roll up your sleeves and get to work.
Yep.
And it felt good to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I do have, and I think, did you bring a story?
I brought a story, it turns out. Good. Okay.
Because mine is probably kind of a short one. Okay. And we're in November. So in amongst the things that we are thankful for, we are so thankful for our listeners. So throughout the month of November, we are going to be doing listener suggestions.
Right. So if you have any suggestions, just email them to bigmuddymayhem@gmail.com.
Send them in. And this one comes from a dear friend of the pod from day one, Megan.
Awesome. Hi, Megan.
Hi, Megan. And so we have a story for you. And because I cannot face real enemies this week,
nope.
I am going to take you for a spin about with a cryptid.
Ooh, yay.
Which is fun. Wonderful. And, we're also going to go back to my happy place, which is...
Wisconsin?
So we're back in Wisconsin, and we are today going to talk about the HODAG.
Oh, okay.
Do you know anything
about... I have not heard of the HODAG.
I'm so excited. So this comes from Rhinelander, Wisconsin, and we're going to just kind of get into it here.
Okay.
So first of all, I'm going to give you HODAG 101.
Okay.
What is a HODAG?
What is a HODAG?
A HODAG is a beast that resides in the woods, and in particular in timberland or logging country.
Ooh, okay.
There is some kind of variance on descriptions, like what do they look like?
Right.
Everybody sees kind of a different thing. It's blind men and the elephant. But the HODAG has overall a frog-like head, a long muscular body with short stubby legs.
Does it have arms?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes, it does. So its limbs are cat-like, like short and stubby, but muscular.
Okay.
And it has green glowing eyes.
Wow, okay.
The HODAG also has claws, teeth, and a bad temper.
Oh, no.
And it cries tears that sometimes, like, the tears turn into gemstones or crystals. They look a little bit like pieces of amber. And you only know this because there was apparently one woman that historically followed the HODAG around and collected its tears. And it's a little bit like the squonk that comes from Pennsylvania, which is like a beast that The squonk is a beast that when it sees its own reflection, it just melts into tears because it cries because it knows how ugly it is.
Oh, no.
But much like a squonk, this one, like, cries tears, but then those tears turn into gemstones, which, given where it's from, I'm like, that might be, like, quartz or, like... And a woman was said to have collected a necklace full of HODAG tears, but then discovered that the HODAG could be dissolved by lemon juice.
Oh, what?
Because she was at a party one night wearing her fancy HODAG tear necklace, and she spilled a drink on herself.
Oh, no!
And the lemon dissolved.
The HODAG tears?
I know.
I'm sorry.
So...
Feels like a rhyme should be going with it in a children's book at this point.
It really does. It really does. And that's not even the most notable thing about the HODAG. So, most notably, a HODAG always has spikes upon its back.
Ooh,
like a stegosaurus.
Yeah.
It's got sharp, spiny spikes upon its back, like an echidna or a stegosaurus. And they also give out a foul odor, described as like a skunk and rotting carrion. Now, I don't know if you've ever been hiking or walking around and, like, come across, like, rotting.
Oh, no, I know what rotting smells like. Definitely.
And skunk.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Which, we know what skunk smells like.
Side note, one time I was traveling away from Gina and Joe's. And it was at night. And I'm following Jim Martin, and I see his car kind of swerve for a moment, and I realize there's a dead skunk already. Like, he missed the dead skunk.
Right.
I went over it, and it rained. And by the time I got home, I didn't go directly home. I went to a car wash after the rain.
And got the skunk off of you.
Oh my God! Awful. Sorry, go ahead.
Because the alternate option is to drive into the city and be like, no, officer, I was not. I haven't smoked anything.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Anyway, so we've got the HODAG. We kind of know a little bit about what they are supposed to have looked like.
Right.
So where do these spiky, smelly boys come from?
Yeah, where do they come from, Tracy?
Well, I'm going to get you there. We are looking at the origin story of the HODAG.
Okay.
Now, some people say that the HODAG is actually kind of a little bit of a spin-off of the Ojibwe.
Okay.
First Nations people. And they describe a creature that is of similar description, and they call it Mishu-Peshu.
Oh, okay.
Or underwater panther.
Underwater panther, okay.
Which is what I call my cats when they get in the bathtub every morning, right? Yeah. They are, and they have photos of this creature seen in pictographs, in like Native American pictographs. It's considered to be a powerful water monster, and sort of opposite of the thunderbird. So you have the creature in the air and then you have the creature underground. And so I gave you the description, the spiny back, all of that. So here is a pictograph of the Mishu-Peshu. Or Mishu-Peshu, sorry.
Yes. And that is clearly Native Americans made that.
Completely. And so, like, a little bit opposite of the Piasa bird, or of the Thunderbird, which I thought was similar to the Piasa bird, but apparently
it's not.
Those two things very different. That's a whole story for another day.
Okay.
We're not going to dive into that because we are busy with HODAGs. Now, that's one theory. Now, some people, particularly folks from around the Wisconsin area, say that the HODAG comes from the remains of oxen that were mistreated in logging camps.
Oh.
This is timberland, and so not the boots, not the music, but like this is where like, all right, as everybody is kind of building up the nation,
Sure.
like in the late 1800s, they use ox for, for farm labor.
Right.
And so these oxen have to kind of like pull logs up the hill, which I'm sure is not what they wanted to be doing with their job. And some of them were not treated very nicely, and once they wore out, they were of no more use. So they were mistreated in these camps, and they say, oh yeah, like the oxen, but the thing is, they were like big and muscular and full of fat, and so it took days to like cremate them, because you have to do that, because also, what are you going to do? They're in the way.
Right, yeah.
So they think that the HODAG might also be the spirit of these abused and cremated oxen.
Wow, okay.
And HODAGs do feature in the Tales of Paul Bunyan.
Oh, neat.
Which makes sense, because his best friend, Babe the Blue Ox.
Exactly.
Right? Like he had a pet ox. And there is a scientific name for the HODAG.
Oh, God. Okay.
It is bovine spiritualis.
Okay.
So, zombie cow?
Zombie cow, yeah.
Essentially like zombie cow. So, yeah, like that's kind of a little bit of the history of the HODAG.
Oh my gosh.
But for us to move forward with the story, we are going to need somebody with an inside scoop.
Okay.
We're going to need someone who is seeing a HODAG.
Okay. Who has seen a HODAG?
Dramatically
turning the page.
We're going to go back to 1893.
Okay.
Eugene Shepard.
Mm-hmm.
He is a surveyor.
Okay.
Like going out just kind of like finding the lay of the land. But he stumbles into a logging camp.
Ooh.
He is frantic. He is asking for help. He claims that the camp is glad to help.
Okay.
And that he can explain to them what he has just seen. I am going to show you a little picture of Eugene here.
Okay.
And I would just like for you... Hold on. I want to get you this one, but not spoil the others. Could you please talk about Eugene for a moment, Janet?
Well, he's got a white... It looks like... It's
Pork
one of those...
pie.
Hats, the white hat, and then he's got a little bow tie. He's definitely older. He looks like he's in the 60s. He's got suspenders, and he's leaning back, and he's not smiling, but he's not frowning. He just looks old.
Does it look like a man that's been out in the woods chasing down critters?
Not really.
Well,
he looks like a city guy.
It's 1893.
Yeah.
And this is Eugene. We're going to be with him for a little while on this story.
Okay.
So get used to him. He claims that the camp was glad to help, but as he talks to them and they're like, well, what can we do? We're going to go get this critter.
Right.
These are people out in the middle of the forest. But Eugene explains to them that, first of all, guns would be no help to them. Because the critter is far too strong. He also says they were like, well, we've got all of these hunting dogs. And the dogs they all looked similar, and it was probably because, like, in most of these, backwoods territories, your dog is a relative of every other dog.
Right, yeah.
So, that's kind of how, some breeds got started and how some coat colors and stuff got started. Well, they have a whole bunch of white bulldogs that were probably like pit bull mixes.
Probably, yeah.
In camp. And he's like, oh my gosh, no, we can't do that because white bulldogs are the HODAG's favorite snack. Like if you were Tracey, I need you to help me chase this monster, but it really likes black cats.
No thanks. Pass.
For those of you that only listen, I have 3 black cats. Anyway, also, a few other things you didn't know about the HODAG. I'm just going to let you know. Jean here told us. HODAGs only eat on Sundays.
Do they have a calendar?
They do. I don't know. Maybe it's religious. Maybe it's some weird keto kind of diet. Maybe they're I don't... I mean, look, I've known vegans. I'm beyond everything at this point. But HODAGs only eat oxen, moose, water snakes, mud turtles.
Okay.
So I'm guessing a water turtle, a snapping turtle. And then muskrats. And their very favorite treat is white bulldogs.
Oh, God. Not made up at all. Nope.
So what is the camp supposed to do? They're well, everything we have, you can't shoot it. We can't take our dogs. Well, they go out and they find, and they can't shoot the HODAG, even though all of them are holding guns and or sticks in their picture. They do the only thing they can do, which is that they blow it up with dynamite. And then they take a photo. And, all right, this is going to be a little hard to see because the photo is, again, from 1893.
Okay.
But here is a photo of the camp around the HODAG.
That's supposedly the HODAG.
That is the HODAG.
It is a pig. With spikes sticking out of his back that they clearly shoved into its back.
My favorite thing about this photo, and we will put it in the show notes, my favorite thing about the photo is that either that HODAG killed something or else they left a little boy laying...
Yeah, what is that about?
As an apparent victim in front of the HODAG.
Oh my God. He took a photograph of one.
So, this dude in the pork pie hat went out with all of his logging buddies, and they
bought a dead pig, decorated it,
and they shot this. And they said that the only way that they were able to kill it was with dynamite. So they had dynamited the cat, wherever they had cornered the HODAG.
Oh my God!
And that's how they got it. So 1893, yay! Eugene has killed the HODAG.
Okay.
And this would be the end of it. Except, you know where we're going.
It didn't die.
No, that one's dead. But Janet.
Tracy.
Janet.
Tracy.
Janet.
Tracy!
In 1896, Eugene found another HODAG.
Well, it takes a little while to save up money to buy that pig. I mean, buying a whole pig is not cheap.
Well, but this time he gets a live one. It is with the help of a stick and a chloroform-soaked rag. I'm sorry, did I just make you spit liquid out your nose?
I'm fine.
All right, so Eugene finds another HODAG, but it's a live one this time, and he chases it and corners it kind of into a cave, and he has chloroform on a rag and a stick, which, why do you have that while you're going out hunting, Eugene? I have more questions.
Because that's what you take when you go hunting.
Does this rag smell like HODAG to you? So he takes the rag and the stick out, and he manages to chloroform the HODAG, which sounds like a filthy sex act, but in this case, he's just trying to save his community. And he captures it. And this is instantly national news. Like, all right, again, this is 1896. Yeah. So what's in the newspapers right now?
Yeah.
This is big, big, big news. And everyone is interested. Thank you. Blue just brought me an otter that she mistook for a HODAG. Well, Eugene decides that since he does happen to have this live HODAG, he's going to take it on tour.
Oh, my God.
So he starts out with the Oneida County Fair, which is also in Wineland, Wisconsin. Gene shows up in a fancy suit. You could see from his hat from the first picture. He was a very snappy dresser.
Yes.
And our hero is selling tickets, and he's like, hey, down right over here on the other side of the fairgrounds is where the HODAG is, in a tent. And he would get ready, collect all the money, pass out all the tickets, and then he would go down to the tent to sell, to open up the gates so that people could come in and see the HODAG.
Okay.
Well, he would go into the tent, and immediately, much like Blue is demonstrating, there would be growling and screaming and boards breaking and all kinds of noises in the back. Blue, can you be a HODAG? Oh, give us a HODAG. Give me HODAG. So a little like that, but times 10.
Right.
And then he would get ready, and he's like, all right, we're going to bring out the HODAG. And 5 minutes later, Eugene would emerge from the tent with his suit in tatters, covered in bruises and blood and cuts. And he would say, oh my gosh, I'm so very sorry, but I can't possibly show the HODAG today because he's too angry.
Oh my God.
Just too much. But everybody would go home and be able to tell their friends that went to the fair, like, oh yeah, we paid our nickel and we almost saw the HODAG.
Oh my God.
So the HODAG wouldn't come out because he was too angry, which... Same, HODAG. Same feels. But sometimes he would reveal the HODAG.
Oh.
And every so often, every so many stops, they would get to see a little bit of the HODAG. Like, just, all right, I can lift the curtain up a little bit. And it would growl and, like, get towards the front of the cage. Just like it would move and, like, get towards the people. And normally that's terrifying.
Right.
Well, so did I mention this was all national news?
Yes.
It was so much national news that scientists get involved. The Smithsonian hears about it.
Wow.
So they are like, hey, we've heard about your HODAG.
We gotta check it out.
We have got a team that we have compiled of some zoologists and historians and scientists, and we want to come, we want to see this marvelous creature. We want to, if you are willing, be able to take a little bit of... Blue, put your HODAG down. We want to be able to, like, take a little bit of, like, samples so that we can kind of take a look and classify it and figure out what it is that we're dealing with here. So once the Smithsonian party is pretty much, like, they've bought their plane tickets, and well, not plane tickets, but you know what I mean. They've bought their train tickets and they're on their way.
Right.
the jig is up. And Eugene admits that, yes, this has all been a hoax.
Yeah.
The HODAG was made of wood and steel as a frame. It was covered in oxhide and bullhorns, and Eugene had wires attached to it that people in the tent could use to kind of make it
move,
jerk and move inside of the tent.
Gotcha.
Now, you might be like, how could they fall for that?
Right.
But, Janet, I have an embarrassing confession to make.
Okay.
I was fully in my 20s when I realized for the first time, because my parents lied to me, that jackalopes are not a real thing.
No, they're not.
You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Now, culturally, the HODAG does remain important to Rhinelanders and also to Wisconsinites in general. Also, the Oneida County Fair, where he first brought the HODAG, the Oneida County Fair is still happening.
Nice.
It is scheduled even for 2025.
Wow.
And frankly, I mean, you know I love the idea of like a county fair to begin with, but this one sounds amazing. End of July, I think like last weekend in July, first weekend in October of next month.
Oh, wow.
Or of next year, rather.
Right.
Is when they're going to do it. They have a few different things that are pretty standard.
Okay.
And I'm going to go through that with you. And that is that they have... Hold on. Boop, boop, bop. Bless my soul. I got an email and then there was like a whole bunch of other stuff on top of my screen. All right. They have, as every blessed Wisconsinite does, a cheese curd eating competition. They have a men's sexy legs in kilts
nice
contest with a handmade leather belt for the first prize. So it's like dudes in kilts for sexy legs. Children get watermelon eating or also a stuffed animal parade.
Nice.
Or they have a crawfish carry, which I think is kind of funny because this is probably terrifying to children, but also like good for them. They have a giant bin of crawfish, live crawfish, and every kid competing has their own bucket. And you have like 2 minutes to like pick up as many crawfish as you can from the big bucket and then put them in your individual bucket.
Oh, okay.
But you have to pick up and run with live crawfish. Which, did you ever catch crawfish?
Yeah, I've caught small ones. Yeah,
I was going to say, so there's that. And then this is my very personal favorite. And this year, boy, people ought to just stand back. They have... for the ladies, a Iron Woman challenge where they have women that pick up, spin, kind of like discus.
Okay.
And throw a cast iron skillet as far as you can.
That's fantastic. I'm sorry.
This is a vibe. We will put these pictures in the show notes, but these women like just flinging cast iron skillets is my entire mood right now. And also to this day, the HODAG, like I said, they use them, their hockey team or whatever the local hockey team is, has like a sculptural HODAG that the eyes glow and it breathes smoke and all of that. And to this day, in that area of Wisconsin, both golfers and fishermen blame the HODAG whenever anything goes wrong.
Wow.
Your ball goes off into the rough, must have been the HODAG. You had like a fish that was like a good like 14-incher on your hook and it gets away. HODAG. Also, the HODAG does appear as one of the mystical creatures in the Harry Potter, like the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And more importantly and more relevant to our interests, The HODAG is also one of the bad creatures in an episode of Scooby-Doo.
Awesome! I recognize that one.
So you can see the animated HODAG there. Anyway,
That's great.
that is a cryptid story, which I really needed something a little bit lighter to handle this week. And also, this one, we are doing listener suggestions. Right. And I just want to, I'm not going to bring it all the way down, but this one was a suggestion of listener Megan, who has been one of my dearest friends for my entire adult life and even before. And this one goes out to her mother, Wisconsinite Diane Cronin. So that is the story of the HODAG.
Yeah, that was a good story.
Thank
you. Have fun. Okay, so you're going to know the story, but you're probably not going to know it until later unless you pick up on this person's name. If you don't, just sit back. This is a suggestion from Ed.
I've been playing dumb my whole life, baby.
Oh,
what we got?
This one's from Ed. Ed suggested this. Do you recognize this man's name? His name is Loren Copp.
I'm going to say yes, but I'm going to pretend no, because I would rather hear the penny drop.
Okay. So Loren Copp grew up in Kokomo, Indiana. I don't really have any information beyond that, so he grew up there. But he did end up attending, which is important, the Johnson Bible College in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Do you think that when the Beach Boys wrote Kokomo, they thought anybody would ever think Indiana?
I know, right? The Kokomo.
That's where we want to go.
Anyway, he only went there for a year. He left after his freshman year, and they ended up getting a certificate in Bible studies from the Summit Theological Seminary.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah, great.
An unaccredited correspondence school in Peru, Indiana.
Well, let's combine the Midwest with a theological school and see where we go.
Oh, yeah, it goes great. Anyway, he started off as a youth minister, but he never stayed anywhere long. Like he was in the churches in Ohio and Mississippi and in Southern Illinois.
Okay.
Church of Christ in Tamaro. The members in 1995, they ended up voting him out. They don't say why.
Everything you say just makes me more terrified.
Per a court hearing, when they voted him out, apparently they had a conflict of personalities. He had a conflict of personalities with the treasurer of the church.
Okay.
Of Friendship Church. So this is another church. Mala Joan, who was the treasurer at Friendship Church,
put your HODAG away, Jesus.
said Copp wanted to know how much each member was donating, and the treasurer's like, I'm not showing you that.
That's weird.
Yeah, like she said that he just wanted to have all sorts of weird control. Shortly after.
A religious leader? Surely not.
As soon as they let him go, that church, his wife ended up separating from him. Now, they did have a child. There was a son, but he was almost in high school when this was going on. And so they ended up fighting over custody over the son.
Okay.
He's a senior in high school, but okay, sure.
Their own. I'm just, frankly, I'm impressed they didn't steal one.
Right? So, after they got a divorce, Copp, he became delinquent on child support, almost $10,000, like $9,700. After the divorce, he ended up moving to Indiana, and he got married again. Crystal Copp, now his ex-wife, said he took a break from the ministry, and while married to Crystal, he ended up working in the construction business with family.
Right.
He went out to do his own business as a builder, but he did not have good credit. So he ended up using his second wife's information. And he bought things. He didn't pay bills, including some of his workers. They ended up splitting up. And then he left Indiana and he moved back to Southern Illinois to be close to his son. He continued to work in construction, but then he started to get in trouble again. At one point, the bank in Southern Illinois would not accept withdrawals from him because of a mix-up at a lumber yard.
Oh.
So, yeah, he's starting to get a really good track record here.
So he's getting a reputation, and, all right, fine, you can be a POS, but if you're like a POS that doesn't pay your people,
right.
then word is going to get out.
Right. So Dan Reed hired him to build a shell of a home in Marion, Illinois. And Copp, he would write paid on the tickets for the materials, and then he would pocket the money that should have gone to the house that he was building.
Oh my gosh. So he's taking, oh wow.
Yeah. So, and then apparently, but the problem was he was very likable and he seemed very believable. Like he would look you dead in the eye.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is just a thing. No, I mean... Narcissists are good liars.
He ended up he signed a he had got a court judgment against him where he was ordered to pay over $200,000. But it was, it was ordered, but it was voluntary. And he only ended up paying like $4,000, and then he immediately declared bankruptcy.
Okay.
So he wouldn't have to pay it because it was voluntary payments. Another lawsuit in Benton, Illinois, Dennis McGuire and David Sippen, they sued Copp in 2005 for breach of contract and fraud. They hired him to build homes in a new subdivision.
And he has a background in some of, in
construction.
Yeah, in construction.
But he's already stealing money from the firm,
But I can see why you would be like, okay, this guy can do the job.
Right, exactly. So, but he ended up improperly using the construction loan money and failed to pay workers, subcontractors for the work and materials. So he's doing the same thing again. They ended up dropping the case because it was just too much of a hassle. It's like they said we don't want to put good money towards bad money. Mm-hmm. So they just dropped it. Then he moved to St. Louis. Where he was involved in another subdivision called Hegman Point on Tesson Ferry Road.
Oh, yes.
He worked on behalf of Stocker Construction as the lead residential builder. He met a real estate broker, Lucy Rubel, who was invested in the development, and the reason why she became, ended up getting talked into this is that her son apparently went on a mission trip and met this Copp guy.
Oh my gosh.
So you're like, yeah, he'll be great, right? They said they pumped money into this thing until there was none left.
We're one in the faith. We're just supporting.
She ended up not fighting it because it was just, she just moved on. So you'll see that there's a pattern.
There is a pattern of it's just not worth it.
Yes.
I'm going to fuck you over just enough.
Just enough. Not too much.
It's easier for you to walk away.
Right.
Than to put everything that it will take into fighting it.
Right. And it just seems like he is trying to test his limits every time.
Completely.
It's I can get away. Yeah, exactly. Carpenter, let's see here. There was a carpenter by the name of Stephen. He was a part of the South Illinois work where he didn't get paid, right? He was a carpenter. And he called Copp and said, you owe me money. I'm in the area. If you don't settle up with me, I'm going to kill you when your back is turned. It was a mad carpenter. So Copp ended up filing a police report against this guy who threatened his life.
Right, I was going to... That is...
Don't mess with somebody's money.
I have in my life said I'm going to send a strongly worded email, but I have never sent one that is that strongly worded.
I know. I'm going to kill you when your back is turned. Oh, dear.
I'm just going to save that in my drafts for when I need it.
Exactly. Oh, my God. In 2007, Copp decided to go back into becoming a pastor because, he just keeps stealing money from people who give it to him to build things, and that doesn't happen.
Right.
So he ends up becoming a pastor at the Southwest Christian Church in Fenton, Missouri.
Okay.
He ends up, he's there for a few years, and then about 2011, This church is one of those churches. Okay, I've worked at a couple of churches. My mother has been on the, the board for the church, for her church. So I don't know if you've ever been to church meetings, but some churches are really, really tight with their money because they're not really, they're just kind of surviving at this point. And so if you have a really good treasurer, the treasurer will no, we don't need that yet. No, that's not that important. And
we need to prioritize.
Right, exactly. And so this church that he started working for in 2007 they were penny pinchers. They were never in the red. They were always doing just fine. And he started. What happened was he ended up basically doubling their parishioners, and so by 2011. He's like, okay, now I got him on the hook. You know what we should do? Mm. We should build a high school for the church.
Oh my gosh.
It'll only cost $1.5 million, and it will be funded by
the church.
The people who come here.
And then there's an asset maybe that I have that will...
this is going to go bad, right? And the thing
it
was...
doesn't ever go good.
No! And the thing was they had no idea that he was involved in all these other scandals. Uh-huh. So 2011, this starts. He promised to build a Christian school financed by the congregation at $1.4 million. Mm-hmm. In 2013, he leaves the church... and the church closes. They've been open for 40 years. This guy...
literally like a bank robber from a cartoon. Just stuffs a bag full of money.
Southwest Christian was tangled in debt that of the failed $2 million expansion.
Oh my God.
The church was fairly good at keeping their debt, at a minimum. And that 1.4 went up to 2 million, and it was mismanaged funds by Copp, of course. Copp signed the contract for electric, and he was in breach of contract. Other companies were owed money, but filed. None of these people filed anything against him. Mm-hmm. At this point, he was already starting to he was doing another thing on the side. He was doing karate classes. He wanted to teach karate. So he's now, he's an ex-pastor. Nobody's going to hire him. I mean, and the funny thing is I found things from KSDK where they were doing an interview with him about him building that high school.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And then the reporter was a very good reporter, was like, yeah, the church seems to be really great with this. Let me tell you about all the scandal.
Oh my gosh. So all the signs are there.
Right. Oh, okay. So he's already becoming a karate instructor. During this time, Copp is married again. And he's with his wife, and at this time, they end up taking in these two young girls their mother lost their apartment.
Okay.
These two girls ended up living with him and his wife for a decade. Well, with him
great.
for a decade. At an early age, he started grooming them.
I was going to say, why young girls specifically?
He started coercing the girls into sex at around the age of 11 and 12. 2013, his wife walked in on one of this, on this.
Oh.
Abuse claim was filed against Copp, and him and his wife split. And for some reason, he was able to take the girls with him.
How in the world?
I have no idea. They're not even his children.
Oh, that's awful. So
he ends up buying a church on Morganford. It's a closed down church, and he moves in with these two girls. And then he decides he's going to do this outreach thing where he's going to help kids in the neighborhood. He's going to it's a nonprofit. He's going to teach karate, and they're going to sell pizza, dojo pizza.
And he's abusing these young girls all the time. The whole time. And after he's abused his wife.
He ends up posing as a 13-year-old by the name of Chrissy. And he opens up a fake Facebook account. He opens up an email. And he asks them to send pictures and stuff and doing rude things. Dojo Pizza was supposed to be a place for kids to learn karate and they could earn some spending money. That's how he sold it. Parents thought the former pastor had the children's best interest.
Oh, sure, totally fine. All right. Well, if you want to take them for a few hours, then sure. Then I'll just.
I have no idea. October 15th, St. Louis police respond to calls saying Copp was contributing to the delinquency of a minor and child endangerment. So they raid his place. And they notice that he is making the children work at the pizzeria for like little to no pay. And so the cops leave. And everybody's like, what was that about? And they're like, oh, it's just some code violations. That's why they raided me. He lived in the building with the underage girls because parents were there. Either they were incarcerated or homeless. So he ended up getting more girls into that building. When he was raided the first time, again, he said it was not up to code. But then he claimed there was absolutely no trafficking of children there at all. The next month, though, the local police, the FBI, and Homeland Security did a second raid. During that raid, they started to speak to the girls. There was 4 of them total. They shared horrifying experiences.
Yeah, because one is never enough for these fuckers.
Right. They found child pornography on his computer, including 2 of the original girls. April 16th, he was taken into custody in 2016. He was charged with several counts of child sexual exploitation and enticement of a minor. When he was rejected a plea deal and decided to represent himself in trial. Because of course he did!
Oh! Narcissist's gonna narcissist.
Just like, okay. Trial begins December of 2018. It lasts about 10 days. They find out, that he was using a fake Facebook account and email account to communicate with his victims. He groomed those 2 girls that him and his wife watched for a few years before he started doing anything. But he groomed them to, The federal judge found him guilty of 8 counts of child sex exploitation and enticement of 4 victims. He was sentenced to 65 years in prison.
Good.
The judge...
Not enough.
The judge spoke at him for an hour about how horrific he was.
Not enough.
And he tried to have an appeal, but it was rejected in 2021. So, yeah. That was the Dojo Pizza guy. I remember when that came out. I mean, that was, pretty close to where Ed and Jelena and... Yeah. Just crazy. But I didn't know any of the backstory. It's like he just kept building up to worse and worse and worse, and trying to look like he's in a place of power, and he's just a terrible person.
And it's always your fault. And you don't even really need to do this. You don't need to fight against this. You can just join me. You can just man, there are a whole lot of places where people are like, oh, it's gonna be fine. It's all you need to do is just fall in line with this person. All you need to do is this thing. All you need to do is that thing. And you stand, what I will say is that you stand in your own shoes right now. And I don't want to bring it down, but do whatever it is that you need to do to stand in your own shoes right now.
Right.
And take care of yourself.
Yep.
And everything is scary. And we are here hopefully to give you a little bit of levity.
Yes.
And a little bit of love. And we really, honestly, I want nothing but the best for anybody.
Right.
That listens to us.
Yep.
And woof, all right, well, I think right now...
I think it's...
It's time for us to take a tiny moment away.
Right.
And I'm going to go convince Janet to join my cult and take her down out to the backyard and show her my HODAG. And then we're going to be back with What's Nice.
We'll be back with What's Nice.
Hey, Mighty Buddies. Thank you so much for all of you that came out in person to support us at our live show. And as we move into the cold, dark winter of the year, a few things that you can do to help support the podcast. Number one, most importantly, is that you can leave a 5-star review, and then not just a 5-star review, but leave a couple of words, just a little bit. Or if you listen on YouTube, leave a comment. The more engagement that we have with our audience, the more likely that we are to gain listeners and to kind of move up through the algorithm and gain fellow listeners. More Muddy Buddies for all of us, so it's good for everyone. Also, if you are looking to suggest stories to us, November is going to be just listener suggestions all the way around, so please do send an email to bigmuddymayhem@gmail.com. And of course, the other thing that you can do is, as we all kind of get into fall and things get colder and you go to cocktail parties and holiday parties and stuff like that, tell your friends, tell your family, help us find more people for our audience collectively. And lastly, we appreciate you. We love you. We hope that we are a safe, comfortable space for you every week in your life. And we are going to now get back to What's Nice.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Now we're back with What's Nice.
It's time to talk about What's Nice.
So I think you have one first.
I do. And what I have, I'm still on my HODAG bullshit. And that is that I'm going to talk about in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, the HODAG hunt.
Oh, okay.
Which I've never wanted to do anything more. So all throughout Rhinelander, Wisconsin, they have all of these statues of the HODAG. The biggest one is outside of the Chamber of Commerce. We talked about it in our story. But there are over 24 hidden throughout the town. Some are businesses. Some are civic facilities. Some are public spaces. So it could be a hardware store or a brewery or out in front of a park.
Oh my God.
But, Janet, you too can hunt the HODAG. If you happen to find all of them, and there is a sheet that you can get.
Oh, it's a scavenger hunt.
It is.
That's great.
And you go all throughout the city.
That sounds fun.
And see if you can find all of the HODAG statues. And then when you're done, you can bring them back to the Chamber of Commerce and get a specially themed HODAG prize.
Okay.
I'm going to show this to you, but I don't want you to describe it because, Muddy Buddies, you need to go and earn it for your own.
Okay.
But Janet,
Tracy,
I'm just going to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how much we want one of these.
I definitely want one of those. I need that.
There is an amazing HODAG prize
I need that.
that you can be, we're Muddy Buddies, and we have a true crime Midwestern podcast. Let's not pretend that we aren't going to be in Wisconsin at some point in time.
Right.
But I could see allocating an entire different day for us to go
Oh my god.
and finish the HODAG hunt. This is Thanksgiving month. We are so thankful for our listeners.
Yes.
And there's no one I'd rather hunt the HODAG with.
That's
So
great.
we can do that.
Nice.
And that is my very short What's Nice. And before I turn it over to you, I forgot that I neglected to read off my sources, so I'm just going to do it right now.
Okay.
Obviously, Wikipedia, Rhinelander, chamberofcommerce.com, lumberwoods.org, MilwaukeeJournalSentinel, AmericanFolklore.us, Rhinelander Historical Society.org, and Scoobypedia.com. This is like my favorite source that I have ever had to do.
Scoopopedia.
I know. Now I
that's
just
right.
want every story to be like something wherein I reference Scoobypedia.com. But yes, HODAG hunt.
Okay.
We're going to put it on the books.
Yes.
And...
Okay.
and that's my What's Nice.
I love it. I love it. So mine, I was like, okay.
We're here hometown.
Yeah, it's in our hometown, and I was like, I'm just gonna hop like literally a block away because you got.
If only those kids could have.
I know.
Oh jeez, I'm sorry. That was really. Oh, that was dark. I'm sorry.
Hey Tracy, turns out you do a true crime podcast every week. You might be a little dark.
I'm so dark.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about Das Bevo.
Yay! Oh, I do like Das Bevo.
So Das Bevo, wow. It's Bevo Mill. Mm-hmm. So for over 100 years, the Bevo Mill has been a world-famous landmark in the heart of South City, most obviously known for its defining feature, a 60-foot tall windmill, originally built by the Bush family as a rest stop between the storied Anheuser-Busch Brewery and what is now known as Grant's Farm. Mm-hmm. Das Bevo has been entertaining the area's most interesting and over-the-top characters with their friends and family for decades. So basically what this place, and I'll put pictures on it. Tracy already knows what it looks like.
It's a giant building that looks like there is a actual large working windmill.
Right, exactly. So they have a beer garden inside. The beer garden's outside, I'm sorry, where they'll have sometimes they'll have bands playing outside and they'll have it open to the public. But right now, Das Bevo has been more just private events. Mm-hmm. So they do weddings, they do parties, but a few times a year, like around September, they'll do Oktoberfest stuff there.
I haven't looked lately. Are they still doing a brunch or
I
no?
know.
You think it's just private?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's mostly just private events. And because when they first opened, they were doing kind of open during the day, but their menu is pretty limited. But you hope
that the events are enough because that building is
it's amazing,
beautiful and precious, and should save it.
Exactly. No, it is definitely a neat building, but it's been there for a long time. There's lots of information on it, I'm sure, on the Anheuser-Busch webpage. But yeah, that's really it. Das Pivo.
Yeah, I haven't looked into that because I just spent a gosh darn month researching the lamps.
Right.
One brewery at a time. My goodness.
So that's my
But
what's
no,
nice.
that is a what's nice.
Yes.
And it is beautiful. And
is.
even if you just get to go by and like take pictures and stuff like that, it's worth seeing if you're in our area.
Yes, absolutely.
Then don't pass it up. All of that noise is for once not any of my animals. It's just rain falling on the window air conditioners that we haven't yet taken out of the windows.
Because it still could be warm.
But, well, we had a couple of stories, and we hope that we brightened your day this week. And, Janet, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
I do remember all of the stuff going down with Dojo Pizza, but I did not know any of the details.
I know. I didn't know any of the backstory.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm like, you just like kept upping your game every time. Okay, sure.
And until Megan sent it in as a listener suggestion, I didn't know the first thing about. I didn't know one thing about HODAGs.
Right.
In spite of my wayward 20s.
And thank you, Ed, for your suggestion. That was very helpful.
Ed and Megan, thank you so much for your suggestion. We are going to have some more from our listeners, and we also want you to know that we are so appreciative to you. Having this does give us each something that we really like to do.
Yes.
Every week. Even when we work and we're cursing and we're like, oh my gosh, how are we going to get it done on time? It feels like a little bit of connection to be able to be here with you every week talking about just muddy stuff and having a little bit of a laugh together. And we love you very much.
Right.
And so thank you so much for your listenership and your support.
And I think there's one other thing we have to say. What is that?
I think that we maybe should... Gosh, if you can't do anything else, then please just be Midwest nice.
Stay Midwest nice.